Episode 1, The Fog Rolls In. The tires of Ariana Grande's rental car crunched over gravel, the sound swallowed by a thick, rolling fog that clung to the Scottish Highlands like a jealous lover. She squinted through the windshield, her breath fogging the glass despite the heater's feeble hum. The GPS had given up miles back, its screen frozen on a pixelated map that might as well have been a middle finger. Glenmorrow, the village she'd picked for its promise of quiet, felt like a myth now, hidden somewhere in this damp, gray soup. Her phone was useless too, bars long gone, leaving only the static of her thoughts and the faint pulse of a pop song she'd been humming to stay calm. 3 weeks away from the spotlight, from the screaming fans and relentless cameras, was all she wanted. Just her, a cozy inn, and maybe a notebook to scribble some lyrics. But the fog had other plans, curling around her car like it was sizing her up. She eased off the gas, the engine's purr the only thing louder than her heartbeat. A sign loomed ahead, half-eaten by moss, Glenmorrow, 2 miles. Relief hit her like a warm drink, but it soured fast when she noticed the letters looked scratched, almost clawed. Weird, she thought, chalking it up to weather or bored teens. The road narrowed, trees pressing in, their branches skeletal against the mist. She flicked on the high beams, but they just bounced back, making the world feel smaller, tighter. Her fingers tightened on the wheel, nails painted bubblegum pink digging into leather. "Come on, Ariana," she muttered. "You've played sold-out arenas. A little fog's nothing." The village appeared like a ghost stepping out of a dream. Stone cottages huddled along a single street, their windows glowing faintly, like eyes half open. A pub sign creaked in the breeze, its paint chipped but readable, "The Thistle's Rest." The inn was next door, a squat building with ivy strangling its walls. She parked, grabbed her duffel, and stepped out, the air hitting her like a wet slap. It smelled of peat and something sharper, like iron or regret. Her boots sank into mud as she headed for the inn's door, the fog so thick she could taste it, heavy and cold on her tongue. A bell jangled as she stepped inside, and warmth wrapped around her, smelling of wood smoke and fresh bread. The lobby was small, all dark wood and flickering lamps. A woman looked up from behind a counter, her face soft but shadowed, like she'd seen too many winters. Mid-30s, maybe, with auburn hair pulled tight and eyes that didn't quite meet Ariana's. "Welcome to Glenmorrow," she said, voice low, almost a whisper. "I'm Ellie Thompson. You must be Ariana." The way she said it, Ariana, lingered, like she was testing the name. "Yeah, that's me," Ariana replied, flashing a smile that usually melted strangers. "Just here for some peace and quiet." Ellie nodded, sliding a key across the counter. "Room 3. Breakfast's at 7. Mind the fog. It's thick tonight." Ariana's smile faltered. Something about Ellie's tone felt off, like a note played wrong. She grabbed the key, her duffel swinging as she climbed the creaky stairs. Her room was simple, a bed with a quilt that looked handmade, a window fogged over, and a desk with a chipped teacup. She dropped her bag and flopped onto the bed, the springs groaning. Silence pressed in, broken only by the wind rattling the panes. She closed her eyes, willing her nerves to settle, but her mind kept replaying Ellie's words. Mind the fog. What did that even mean? A scream tore through the quiet, sharp and raw, like someone's soul had been ripped out. Ariana bolted upright, heart slamming against her ribs. It came from outside, muffled by the fog but close enough to raise goosebumps. She scrambled to the window, wiping condensation with her sleeve. The street was a gray blur, but something moved, a shadow too tall, too thin, slipping between cottages. Her breath caught, fogging the glass again. Was that a person? Or just the mist playing tricks? She threw on her jacket and crept downstairs, the lobby empty now, Ellie gone. The bell jangled as she stepped outside, the cold biting her cheeks. "Hello?" she called, her voice swallowed by the fog. No answer, just the drip of water somewhere in her pulse thumping in her ears. She took a step, then another, her boots squelching. The shadow was gone, but a faint hum lingered, like a melody she couldn't place. She followed it, drawn toward the pub, its windows casting a sickly yellow glow. Inside, the air was thick with beer and sweat. A handful of locals froze, their eyes pinning her like she was an intruder. A man at the bar, broad and grizzled, stood slowly, his badge glinting under the light. "Detective Jacob McLean," he said, voice like gravel. "Most call me Jake." "You the singer?" Word travels fast, Ariana thought, nodding. "Ariana Grande." I heard a scream. His jaw tightened, but he didn't look surprised. "Probably just kids messing about," he said, too quick. "Stay inside tonight. Fog's no place for wandering." Before she could argue, a woman burst in, her face pale as bone. "It's Sarah," she gasped, clutching Jake's arm. "She's gone. Vanished, like the others." The pub went silent, every eye darting to Ariana, then away. Jake cursed under his breath, grabbing his coat. "Stay here," he told her, heading for the door. Like hell, Ariana thought, following him into the fog. She wasn't here to hide. Not when that scream still echoed in her head. They moved fast, the woman, Mara, Ariana caught, babbling about Sarah, a teenager who hadn't come home. The fog seemed to pulse, thicker now, curling around them like it had a mind of its own. Jake scanned the ground, his flashlight cutting weak beams. "Nothing," he muttered, but his voice shook, just a little. Ariana's eyes caught something glinting in the mud. She crouched, heart racing, and picked it up, a silver earring, shaped like a star. "Sarah's?" she asked, holding it up. Jake's face darkened, but he didn't answer, just kept moving. They reached the edge of the village, where the moors stretched into nothing. The fog was a wall now, swallowing sound, light, everything. Ariana's skin prickled, like eyes were on her. She turned, and there it was again, that shadow, tall and wrong, standing just beyond the light. "Jake," she whispered, grabbing his arm. He spun, but the figure melted into the mist. His flashlight swept the dark, finding only empty air. "You're seeing things," he snapped, but his hand stayed on his gun. Back at the inn, Jake told her to lock her door and stay put. Ariana nodded, but her mind was racing. That earring, the shadow, Mara's panic, it wasn't just kids messing around. She climbed to her room, the key cold in her hand. The window was still fogged, but now, something was different. Her breath hitched as she wiped it clear. Outside, in the mud below, were footprints. Not hers. Too big, too deep. Leading right to her window. She locked the door, heart hammering, and sank onto the bed. The earring sat on the desk, glinting like a warning. Glenmora wasn't the escape she'd wanted. It was something else entirely. And that scream, that shadow, they were calling her name. Episode 2, Whispers of the Lost. The morning after the scream, Ariana Grande woke with a jolt, the silver star earring still glinting on her desk like it was daring her to pick it up. Her room at the inn felt smaller now, the quilt heavier, the air thick with something she couldn't name. Those footprints under her window haunted her, their edges too sharp in her memory, like someone had stood there, watching, while she slept. She rubbed her eyes, smudging last night's mascara, and checked her phone. Still no signal, just a blank screen mocking her. Glenmora was a black hole, and she was stuck in it. Downstairs, the lobby smelled of burnt coffee and damp wood. Ellie Thompson was behind the counter, polishing a glass with a rag that looked older than the inn. Her auburn hair caught the weak sunlight, but her face stayed shadowed, like she was hiding from it. "Morning," Ariana said, forcing a smile. Ellie glanced up, her eyes flicking to the earring in Ariana's hand before settling on her face. "Sleep all right?" she asked, voice too even, like she'd rehearsed it. Ariana shrugged, tucking the earring into her pocket. "Fine. Heard anything about Sarah?" Ellie's rag paused, just for a second. "Nothing new," she said, but her knuckles whitened around the glass. "Ask Jake if you're curious. He's at the pub." Ariana didn't buy it. Ellie's calm felt like a mask, and that pause screamed louder than words. She grabbed a stale scone from the breakfast tray and headed out, the fog thinner now but still clinging to the village like a bad habit. Glenrose's streets were quiet, the kind of quiet that made your skin crawl, like the world was holding its breath. Cottages leaned together, their stone faces stained by years of rain and secrets. A dog barked somewhere, sharp and lonely, and Ariana's boots crunched gravel as she aimed for the thistle's rest. The pub was dim, its air sour with last night's beer. Detective Jake McLean slouched at a corner table, scribbling in a notebook, his badge glinting beside a half-empty pint. He looked up as she walked in, his face all hard lines and stubble, like he hadn't slept either. "Back already, Ariana?" he said, voice low and rough. "Thought I told you to stay put." She slid into the chair across from him, ignoring the jab. "Found this last night," she said, pulling out the earring. "Sarah's, right?" Jake's eyes narrowed, but he didn't touch it. "Could be," he said. "Lots of girls were stars." She leaned forward, voice dropping. "And the scream? The footprints? You gonna tell me that's nothing too?" Jake sighed, rubbing his temples. "Look," he said, "Glenrose's got history. People go missing sometimes. Hikers, mostly. Sarah's probably just run off with some boy. Happens." But his eyes didn't meet hers, and his fingers tapped the table, restless. Ariana wasn't here to play tourist, and she sure wasn't here to be lied to. "Bullshit, Jake," she said, soft but firm. "I saw something out there. Tall, weird, moving in the fog. You saw it too." His jaw clenched, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he stood, grabbing his coat. "Stay out of it," he said. "For your own good." She followed him anyway, because sitting still wasn't her style. The village square was waking up, a few locals shuffling about, their eyes sliding over her like she was a ghost they didn't want to see. Mara Taylor, the woman from last night, was outside her bakery, kneading dough with hands that shook. Her face was gray, her apron smeared with flour and something darker, maybe blood. Ariana slowed, her gut twisting. "Mara," she called, trying to sound friendly. "Any word on Sarah?" Mara's head snapped up, eyes wild. "You," she spat, pointing a floury finger. "You brought this. Outsiders always do." Before Ariana could respond, Mara ducked inside, slamming the door. Jake was ahead, heading for the moors, his shoulders tense. Ariana caught up, her breath puffing in the chilly air. "What's her deal?" she asked, nodding back at the bakery. Jake didn't break stride. "Mara's scared," he said. "Lost her brother years ago. Same story. Vanished, no trace." Ariana's stomach flipped. "Same story?" she pressed. "How many people, Jake?" He stopped, turning to face her, his eyes like storm clouds. "Enough," he said. "Drop it." The moors stretched out, endless and gray, the fog pooling in dips like spilled milk. Heather crunched underfoot, and the air smelled of wet earth and something sour, like decay. Ariana's skin prickled, the memory of that shadow tugging at her. She scanned the horizon, half expecting it to slink out of the mist. Instead, a figure appeared, human this time, leaning against a gnarled tree. He was young, late 20s, with messy dark hair and a grin that didn't match the gloom. "Nice day for a walk," he called, his accent soft, almost musical. "I'm Liam Connors." "You're the pop star, yeah?" Ariana blinked, caught off guard. "Word travels fast," she said, managing a smirk. Liam's grin widened, but his eyes were sharp, like he was reading her. "Historian," he said, nodding at the moors. "Glenrose's got stories. Old ones. Care to hear?" Jake snorted, stepping between them. "She's busy, Connors," he said. "Go write your ghost tales somewhere else." But Ariana's curiosity sparked. "What kind of stories?" she asked, ignoring Jake's glare. Liam's smile turned sly. "The kind about a woman in the fog," he said. "Betrayed, broken, bound to these moors. They say she takes what's hers." A chill crawled up Ariana's spine, but before she could ask more, Jake grabbed her arm, pulling her away. He's full of it, he muttered, his grip firm. Stick to facts. They trekked deeper, the fog thickening, until they reached a cluster of stones, half buried, like forgotten teeth. Jake crouched, checking the ground, his flashlight flickering. Ariana's eyes wandered, landing on something caught in the heather. A scrap of fabric, blue, torn, with a faint stain that looked too much like blood. Her breath hitched. "Jake," she said, pointing. He froze, then bagged it, his face unreadable. "Could be nothing," he said, but his voice was tight. The walk back was silent, the fog pressing closer, like it was listening. At the inn, Ariana slipped upstairs, her head spinning. Sarah, the shadow, Liam's story, it was all tangling together, and Jake's half-answers weren't helping. She locked her door, the earring heavy in her pocket, and sat at the desk. A creak made her jump, but it was just the floorboards. Or was it? She crossed to the window, wiping away condensation. The fog stared back, blank and endless. Then she saw it, tucked under the desk's edge, a folded note, yellowed, like it had been there forever. Her fingers shook as she opened it, the handwriting sharp, uneven. "You don't belong here. Leave, or you're next." Her heart slammed against her ribs, but that wasn't the worst part. Clipped to the note was a photo, grainy and old, of a girl who looked way too familiar. Not Sarah. Not some random villager. The girl had Ariana's eyes, her smile, her everything. Like staring in a mirror, except this mirror was 20 years old and screaming trouble. Episode 3, Shadows in the Mist. Ariana Grande sat frozen at the desk in her room, the yellowed note crumpled in one hand, the photo trembling in the other. The girl staring back from the grainy image was a ghost of herself, same dark eyes, same tilt of the lips, like someone had ripped a page from her past and left it here to rot. The words scrawled on the note burned in her mind, "You don't belong here. Leave, or you're next." Her pulse hammered, loud enough to drown out the wind clawing at the inn's windows. Glenmorrow wasn't just a creepy village anymore. It was a trap, and that photo felt like bait. She shoved the note and photo into her pocket, next to Sarah's star earring, and paced the room. The floorboards groaned under her boots, each creak spiking her nerves. No signal on her phone, no way to call for help, and the fog outside was a wall of gray, locking her in. She needed answers, not riddles, and sitting here wasn't going to get them. Ellie Thompson's weird vibe downstairs, Jake's half-truths, that shadow in the fog, they were pieces of something bigger, and Ariana wasn't about to wait for it to swallow her whole. Downstairs, the lobby was empty, the air heavy with dust and yesterday's coffee. Ellie's counter was bare, no sign of her, just a flickering lamp casting jagged shadows. Ariana's boots echoed as she stepped outside, the fog colder now, curling around her like a warning. The village square was a blur, cottages smudged into the mist, their windows dark except for one, Mara Taylor's bakery, where a faint glow leaked out. Ariana hesitated, Mara's words from yesterday stinging. "You brought this. Outsiders always do." But fear wasn't her style, and neither was backing down. She crossed the street, her jacket damp with mist, and pushed open the bakery door. The smell of burnt sugar hit her first, then the sight of Mara, hunched over a counter, kneading dough like it owed her money. Her hands were dusted with flour, her apron stained with something reddish, and her eyes snapped to Ariana, sharp as broken glass. "Back again?" Mara said, voice low, almost a growl. "Told you to leave us be." Ariana swallowed, keeping her tone light. "Just want to talk, Mara. About Sarah. About what's going on." Mara's hands stilled, her knuckles white. "You don't get it, girl," she said. "You waltzin', all shiny and famous, stirring things up. It's your kind that makes her angry." Ariana's skin prickled. "Her?" she asked, stepping closer. "Who's her?" Mara's lips twitched, like she'd said too much, and she turned away, shoving dough into an oven. "Get out," she muttered. "Before it's too late." The door slammed behind Ariana as she stumbled back into the fog, her head spinning. Mara's fear was real, but it wasn't just grief. It was something older, something that made that note in Ariana's pocket feel heavier. She aimed for the pub, hoping Jake was there, but a figure cut through the mist ahead, moving fast. Tall, thin, wrong, like the shadow from last night. Her breath caught, and she ducked behind a cottage, heart slamming against her ribs. The figure paused, head tilting, like it sensed her, then slipped into the fog toward the moors. Ariana's legs moved before her brain caught up, chasing it, the earring and photo bouncing in her pocket. She wasn't imagining this. Not anymore. The moors were a maze of heather and mud, the fog so thick it felt alive, brushing her cheeks like cold fingers. Her boots sank, slowing her, but she caught glimpses of the figure, gliding, not walking, its edges blurring into the mist. "Hey!" she shouted, voice swallowed by the gray. It didn't stop, just led her deeper, until her lungs burned and her sneakers were soaked. Then, nothing. The figure was gone, leaving her alone with the wind's low moan and a sick feeling in her gut. She turned, disoriented, the village a distant smudge. Panic crept in, but she forced it down, scanning the ground for tracks. Nothing but mud and grass, until her eyes caught a glint half buried in the dirt. She crouched, digging with numb fingers, and pulled out a locket, tarnished but heavy, its clasp stuck. Inside was a photo, faded but clear, a woman, young, with Ellie's auburn hair and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Ariana's stomach twisted. Ellie? Or someone close? Back at the inn, her clothes damp and her nerves frayed, she found Ellie in the lobby, stacking firewood. The locket burned a hole in her pocket, but Ariana played it cool, leaning against the counter. "Hey, Ellie," she said, voice casual. "You from Glenmorrow originally?" Ellie's hands paused, just a fraction. "Born and raised," she said, not looking up. "Why?" Ariana pulled out the locket, holding it up. "Found this out there. Looks like you." Ellie's face went pale, her eyes locking on the locket like it was a bomb. "Where'd you get that?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. Ariana didn't blink. "Moors. Near where Sarah went missing." Ellie's lips parted, but no sound came out. She grabbed the locket, her fingers trembling, and stuffed it into her apron. "You shouldn't be poking around," she said, her voice cracking. "Not safe." Ariana leaned closer, dropping the act. "Safe? Like Sarah was safe? Or the others Jake won't talk about?" Ellie's eyes darted to the door, like she expected someone to burst in. "Leave it, Ariana," she said, almost pleading. "For your own good." The door swung open before Ariana could push harder, and Jake stomped in, his coat slick with mist. He froze, sensing the tension, his eyes flicking between them. "Trouble?" he asked, voice gruff. Ariana crossed her arms. "You tell me, Jake." "Found a locket out there." Ellie's acting like it's cursed. Jake's brow furrowed, but he didn't ask to see it. Instead, he jerked his head toward the door. "Got a lead on Sarah," he said. "Tracks near the stones. Coming or not?" Ariana followed, her mind racing. Ellie's reaction, the locket, Mara's warning, it was all connected, and Jake's cagey attitude wasn't helping. The moors were darker now, the fog heavier, like it was trying to hide something. Jake moved fast, his flashlight cutting through the gray, until they reached the cluster of stones from yesterday. He crouched, pointing at scuffs in the mud. "Fresh," he said. "Could be hers." Ariana's eyes wandered, landing on something carved into a stone, half hidden by moss. She brushed it clear, her breath catching. A name, Ellie. Not fresh, but deep, like it had been there for years. "Jake," she said, voice tight. "Look at this." He glanced over, his face hardening, but before he could speak, a sound cut through the fog, a low, keening wail, like a woman crying. It wasn't human, not quite, and it raised every hair on Ariana's neck. Jake's hand went to his gun, his eyes scanning the mist. "Stay close," he muttered, but Ariana was already moving, drawn to the sound, her heart pounding. The fog swirled, and there it was again, the shadow, closer now, its shape sharper, like a woman in a tattered dress, her face just out of sight. Ariana froze, the wail fading, but the shadow didn't move. It stood, watching, until the fog swallowed it whole. Jake grabbed her arm, yanking her back. "You trying to get killed?" He snapped, but his voice shook. Ariana's mouth was dry, the name on the stone burning in her mind. Ellie's locket, Ellie's name, Ellie's fear. She wasn't just hiding something. She was part of it. Episode 4, The Weight of Secrets. Ariana Grande's boots sank into the moor's mud, her breath puffing in the chilly air as she followed Detective Jake McLean back to Glenmorrow. That wail from the fog still echoed in her head, sharp and wrong, like a needle stuck in her brain. The shadow she'd seen, tall, woman-shaped, gone in a blink, felt closer now, like it had left a piece of itself behind. Her pocket was heavy with Sarah's earring, the crumpled note, and the photo of that girl who looked too much like her. And Ellie's name, carved into that stone, burned brightest of all. Ellie Thompson wasn't just scared. She was tangled in this, and Ariana was done with half-answers. The village came into view, its cottages hunched against the fog like they were bracing for a storm. Jake hadn't said a word since the moors, his jaw tight, his flashlight swinging in his hand like he was itching to hit something. Ariana matched his stride, her sneakers squelching. "You gonna pretend that didn't happen, Jake?" she asked, voice low but sharp. "That sound, that thing in the fog?" He glanced at her, eyes like chipped flint. "Wind plays tricks out here," he said. "You're jumping at shadows." She stopped, forcing him to face her. "Shadows don't wail," she said. "And they don't carve names into stones." Ellie's name. Jake's face twitched, but he didn't bite. "Keep walking," he said, turning away. "We're not doing this here." Ariana's blood heated, but she followed, because storming off alone wasn't smart, not after what she'd seen. The inn's lights glowed ahead, weak but steady, and she felt a pull to confront Ellie, to shake the truth out of her. That locket, her panic, it was a thread, and Ariana was ready to yank it. Inside, the lobby smelled of damp wool and old coffee. Ellie was behind the counter, stacking mugs, her hands steady now but her eyes darting like she knew they were coming. Ariana didn't waste time. "Found something else, Ellie," she said, stepping close, voice calm but firm. "Your name, carved out there where Sarah disappeared. Care to explain?" Ellie's mug clattered, her face draining of color. "You're digging where you shouldn't," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Jake stepped in, his tone gruff. "Ease up, Ariana. Let her breathe." Ariana's eyes didn't leave Ellie's. "Breathe?" she said. "Like Sarah's breathing? Or the others you both keep dodging?" Ellie's lips parted, then closed, her hands twisting her apron. "It's not what you think," she said finally, her voice cracking. "I was a kid back then. My sister, Lisa, she went missing too. 20 years ago. That stone, it's just a memorial. Kids carved it, after." Ariana's gut twisted. The locket's photo flashed in her mind, Ellie's sister, maybe, not Ellie. But the way Ellie's eyes slid away, it didn't feel like the whole story. Jake sighed, rubbing his neck. "Enough for tonight," he said. "Ariana, upstairs." "Ellie, lock up." Ariana wanted to argue, but Ellie's haunted look stopped her. She nodded, heading for the stairs, but paused when she heard Ellie murmur to Jake, "Too close, Jake. She's too close." The words sank like stones, and Ariana's hand tightened on the banister. "Close to what?" She locked her door upstairs, the room colder now, the fog pressing against the window like it wanted in. Sleep wasn't happening, not with her brain chewing on Ellie's half-truth and that wail. She sat at the desk, spreading out her clues, the earring, the note, the photo, all staring back like puzzle pieces that didn't fit. The girl in the photo, could it be Lisa? Or someone else tied to this mess? Her fingers brushed the note's warning, "Leave, or you're next," and a chill crawled up her spine. She needed more, something solid. Jake wasn't talking, Ellie was a locked box, but there was someone else who might spill. Morning came gray and heavy, the fog thinner but still stubborn. Ariana slipped out early, aiming for the pub, hoping to catch Liam Connors. His ghost stories yesterday had felt like more than folklore, like he was dropping hints nobody else dared. The pub was quiet, just a couple of locals nursing pints, their eyes sliding over her like she was trouble walking. Liam was in a corner, scribbling in a notebook, his dark hair falling over his eyes. He looked up, grinning like they were old friends. "Morning, pop star," he said. "Morse didn't eat you yet?" She slid into the booth, cutting the small talk. "Tell me about the woman in the fog, Liam," she said. "No games." His grin faded, but his eyes sparked, like he'd been waiting for this. "Old tale," he said, leaning in. "Woman named Moira, betrayed by her own, left to die out there. Story goes, she never left. Takes those who wander too far, or those who dig too deep." He paused, watching her. "Like you, maybe." Ariana's throat tightened, but she held his gaze. "And Sarah?" she asked. "Moira take her too?" Liam shrugged, too casual. "Could be. Or could be someone using the story. Glenmorrow's good at hiding things." Before she could press, the door banged open, and Jake stormed in, his coat dripping. "Ariana, with me," he said, voice clipped. "Got something." She followed, shooting Liam a look that promised they weren't done. Outside, Jake led her to his truck, the engine already rumbling. "Found a site," he said, climbing in. "Old, maybe tied to the vanishings. You want in, you're in, but no stunts." She nodded, adrenaline spiking. This was it, something real. The moors were endless, the truck bouncing over ruts until they stopped at a clearing circled by jagged stones. The air felt wrong, heavy, like it was holding its breath. Jake pointed to a patch of churned earth, marked with symbols scratched deep, circles, lines, something like a star. "Ritual, maybe," he said, crouching. "Seen it before, years back." Ariana's eyes caught something else, half-buried, a ribbon, blue, like the fabric from Sarah's trail. Her heart skipped. Jake bagged it, his face grim, but didn't speak. She wandered the circle, her skin crawling, like eyes were on her. The fog shifted, and she froze, a shape flickered at the edge, that same tall shadow, its outline sharper now, like a woman reaching out. Ariana's voice caught in her throat, but she stepped closer, drawn despite herself. The air hummed, low and sick, and the shadow's head turned, featureless but heavy with intent. Jake's shout snapped her back, "Ariana, move," and she stumbled, the shadow gone when she blinked. They drove back in silence, the ribbon and symbols heavy between them. At the inn, Ariana's legs shook as she climbed to her room, Jake's warning to stay put ringing hollow. She locked the door, her clues spread out again, but the photo felt different now, like the girl was watching her. She turned it over, and her breath stopped. Scratched into the back, faint but clear, was a single word, "Moira." Her fingers went numb, the room spinning. Then, from the window, a soft tap, like a nail on glass. She spun, heart in her throat, and saw it, etched into the fogged pane, as if drawn from outside, her own name, Ariana, carved slow and deliberate. "Thank you for listening to this incredible story. Our team would really appreciate it if you give us a like and comment. Your opinion is very important to us. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed. See you soon." Episode 5, Beneath the Surface. Ariana Grande stood rooted to the floor of her room, staring at her name scratched into the fogged window pane. Ariana, the letters jagged, like they'd been clawed by something that knew her, wanted her. Her breath fogged the glass, blurring the word, but it didn't erase the chill snaking down her spine. The inn was silent, save for the wind's low moan outside, but it felt like the walls were listening, holding their breath. Sarah's earring, the threatening note, the photo of that look-alike girl, and now this, Glenmorrow wasn't just haunted. It was hunting her. She backed away, her sneakers scuffing the floorboards, and grabbed her jacket. No way was she staying here, not with her name staring back like a warning shot. The clues in her pocket, earring, note, photo, and the memory of that ribbon from the ritual site, felt heavier now, like they were pulling her deeper into something she didn't understand. Ellie's half-story about her sister, Jake's cagey attitude, Liam's talk of Moira, it all swirled in her head, but the window's message was clear: sitting still wasn't an option. Downstairs, the lobby was dark, Ellie gone, the counter abandoned except for a flickering lamp. Ariana stepped into the fog, thicker now, curling around Glenrose cottages like a jealous grip. The village felt smaller, tighter, every shadow a threat. She aimed for the pub, hoping Jake was there, because going back to the moors alone after that shadow wasn't happening. Her boots crunched gravel, the air sharp with peat and something sour, like fear baked into the earth. The pub's glow was weak, but it was something. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with beer and whispers. A few locals glanced up, their eyes sliding away fast, like she was bad luck walking. Jake wasn't there, but Liam Connors was, sprawled in a booth, a half-empty pint beside his notebook. He looked up, his grin lazy but sharp. "Trouble finds you quick, doesn't it, Ariana?" he said, voice smooth, like he'd been expecting her. She slid in across from him, cutting to it. "Someone carved my name into my window, Liam," she said. "You gonna tell me that's Moira too?" His grin faded, eyes narrowing. "Carved?" he said, leaning forward. "That's new. Moira's more subtle. Likes whispers, shadows. But names? That's personal." Ariana's skin prickled. "Personal how?" she asked, voice low. Liam tapped his pen, glancing at the locals, who were pretending not to listen. "Stories say Moira marks those who dig into her pain," he said. "Betrayals her thing. You poking around Sarah, the Stones, Ellie's past? That's digging." Ariana's throat tightened, the note's warning flashing in her mind. "Leave, or you're next." Before she could push, the door banged open, and Mara Taylor stormed in, her apron streaked with flour and that same reddish stain. Her eyes locked on Ariana, wild with something deeper than anger. "You're still here," Mara spat, voice shaking. "Stirring it all up. My Sarah's gone because of you." Ariana stood, heart racing, but kept her voice steady. "I'm trying to help, Mara," she said. "I found her earring, or ribbon. I want her back too." Mara laughed, bitter and broken. "Help?" she said. "Last outsider who helped ended up gone. Ask Ellie about her sister." The pub went quiet, every glass frozen mid-sip. Liam's pen stopped, his eyes flicking to Ariana, curious now. She seized the moment, stepping closer to Mara. "What about Lisa?" she asked. "Ellie said she vanished. You saying it's connected?" Mara's face crumpled, and she backed toward the door. "Just leave," she whispered, then fled into the fog. Ariana turned to Liam, but he was already standing, grabbing his coat. "You're in deep, pop star," he said. "Watch your step." She followed him outside, because waiting for Jake felt like waiting for rain in a drought. The fog swallowed Mara's shape, but Liam moved fast, heading for the moors. "Where are you going?" Ariana called, jogging to keep up. Liam didn't look back. "You want answers?" he said. "Moors keep 'em. But they don't give 'em easy." Her gut screamed to turn back, but the window's carving pushed her forward, her sneakers sinking into mud as they left the village behind. The moors were a gray sea, heather crunching underfoot, the air thick with damp and secrets. Liam slowed near a dip, where stones jutted like broken teeth. "Here," he said, pointing to a patch of earth, churned like someone had clawed it up. "Old spot. Stories tie it to Moira's end." Ariana's eyes scanned the ground, catching a glint, another ribbon, blue, tangled in roots. Her breath hitched. "Sarah's?" she asked, crouching. Liam shrugged, but his eyes were sharp, watching her too closely. The fog shifted, sudden and heavy, cutting them off from the world. Ariana's skin crawled, like the air was alive, pressing in. Liam tensed, his voice low. "We should go," he said, but it was too late. A sound rose, a hum, soft at first, then sharper, like a voice trapped in glass. Ariana's heart pounded, her eyes darting. There, at the edge of the dip, the shadow stood, clearer now, a woman's shape, tattered and still. Its head tilted, and the hum became words, faint but piercing, Ariana. Her name, sung like a curse. She stumbled back, Liam grabbing her arm, his face pale. "Move!" he hissed, pulling her toward the village, but the fog thickened, slowing them, like it wanted them caught. The shadow didn't chase, just watched, its voice fading but her name lingering, echoing in her skull. They broke free near Glenmorrow's edge, gasping, the village's lights faint through the mist. Liam let go, his grin gone. "Told you," he said, voice shaky. "She's real. And she knows you now." Ariana's legs trembled as she reached the inn, Liam vanishing into the fog without another word. Inside, Ellie was stacking firewood, her eyes flicking to Ariana's mud-streaked jacket. "Out late," she said, too casual. Ariana didn't bite. "Found another ribbon, Ellie," she said, voice hard. "And something called my name out there. You still saying it's just your sister's ghost?" Ellie's hands froze, a log slipping, her face a mask of fear and something else, guilt, maybe. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Stop before it's too late." Upstairs, Ariana locked her door, her clues spread on the desk, earring, note, photo, and now the ribbon, its blue frayed like a warning. The photo's back, with Moira scratched into it, seemed to pulse in the lamplight. She turned to the window, half expecting her name again, but the glass was clear. Too clear. Because outside, in the mud below, fresh footprints circled the inn, deeper than before, leading into the fog. And at the edge of the light, a scrap of blue fabric hung on a bush, flapping like a flag, daring her to follow. Episode 6, Cracks in the Truth. Ariana Grande's breath caught as she stared out her window, the scrap of blue fabric flapping in the fog like a taunt. Those footprints circling the inn, fresh and deep, weren't random. They were a message, same as her name carved in the glass, same as that voice in the moors whispering Ariana like it owned her. Her room felt like a cage now, the walls too close, the air too still. On the desk, her clues, Sarah's earring, the threatening note, the photo with Moira scratched on it, the ribbons, stared back, daring her to connect them. Glenmorrow was closing in, and she was running out of time to figure out why. She stuffed the clues into her pocket, her hands shaky but her jaw set. No more waiting for Jake to play hero or Ellie to crack. That fabric outside was a lead, and she wasn't letting it slip away. The inn was quiet as she crept downstairs, the lobby empty, Ellie's counter abandoned again. The fog outside was a heavy blanket, muffling the village's edges, making every step feel like a gamble. Ariana crouched by the bush, snagging the fabric, a scarf, blue, with a faint floral pattern, damp from the mist. It smelled faintly of lavender, like something Sarah might have worn. Her gut twisted. Another piece, but to what? The pub was her best bet for Jake, but a noise stopped her, a low creak, like a door easing shut behind the inn. She froze, heart thudding, and peered into the fog. Nothing, just shadows and the drip of water. But the air felt wrong, charged, like someone was watching. She moved fast, boots crunching gravel, the scarf clutched tight. The pub's lights flickered ahead, a weak beacon, and she pushed inside, the air thick with smoke and sour beer. Detective Jake McLean was at the bar, hunched over a coffee, his notebook open but untouched. He looked up, eyes narrowing. "You don't listen, do you?" he said, voice rough. "Told you to stay put." Ariana dropped the scarf on the bar, ignoring his tone. "Found this outside my window, Jake," she said. "Footprints too. Same blue as Sarah's ribbon. You still saying this is nothing?" Jake's fingers brushed the scarf, his face tightening, but he didn't answer right away. Instead, he glanced at the locals, who were watching too closely, their whispers dying fast. "Not here," he said, standing, grabbing his coat. Outside, the fog swallowed sound, and Jake's voice dropped low. "You're stirring things up, Ariana, he said. That scarf's trouble. Could be Sarah's, could be bait. Either way, you're painting a target. She crossed her arms, fog dampening her jacket. Then help me, she said. What's Moira? Ellie's sister? A ghost? Or just a story to scare kids? Jake's jaw worked, like he was chewing on words he didn't want to spit out. Old case, he said finally. Woman went missing, long time ago. Locals made her a legend. That's all. Ariana's eyes narrowed. Bullshit, she said, stepping closer. I heard her, Jake. My name, out there. You heard it too. He looked away, his flashlight flickering in the mist. You're tired, he said, but it sounded like he was convincing himself. Go back to the inn. She wanted to scream, but a new voice cut through, shaky and sharp. You lot blind? It was Daniel Donnie Reed, the fisherman, stumbling from an alley, his eyes wild. Saw her, I did, he said. In the fog, by the docks. Moira. Took my nets, left this. He held up a torn rope, knotted weirdly, like a noose. Jake grabbed it, his face grim. Donnie, sober up, he said, but Donnie shook his head, pointing at Ariana. She's waking her, he said. Your fault, singer. He lurched off, muttering, leaving Ariana's skin crawling. Jake cursed under his breath. Stay here, he said, heading after Donnie, but Ariana's feet were already moving, not toward the inn but toward Liam Connor's cottage. If Jake wouldn't talk, Liam might. Liam's place was at the village's edge, a stone shack with ivy choking the walls. She knocked, the door creaking open on its own, like it had been waiting. Inside smelled of old books and candle wax, shelves crammed with papers and weird trinkets, bones, feathers, a cracked mirror. Liam was at a table, sketching symbols like the ones at the ritual site, his hands smudged with ink. Didn't expect you, he said, grinning, but his eyes were wary. Ariana didn't sit. Found a scarf, she said, tossing it down. Heard my name again, in the fog. Your Moira story's starting to feel real, Liam. Spill it. He leaned back, tapping his pencil. Not my story, he said. Villages. Moira was wronged, bad. Some say her kin covered it up, buried her out there. Now she's back, picking off anyone who digs too close. Like Sarah. Like you. Ariana's throat tightened, the photo in her pocket burning. And Ellie's sister? She asked. Lisa fit the pattern? Liam's grin faded. Maybe, he said. Ellie don't talk about it. Nobody does. He stood, grabbing a book, flipping to a page with a sketch, a woman, hooded, hands outstretched, symbols around her. Found this, he said. Old journal. Matches the stones. Ariana's eyes locked on the sketch, her pulse spiking. It looked like the shadow, too much to be chance. Before she could ask more, a crash came from outside, glass shattering in the fog. Liam cursed, grabbing a flashlight, and they ran out, the mist swallowing the village. The sound came from the docks, where Donnie's boat rocked, its deck littered with broken bottles. No Donnie, just a smear of something dark, blood, maybe, on the rail. Ariana's stomach flipped, and Liam's beam caught something floating in the water, another scarf, blue, sinking slow. They backed away, the fog pressing in, and Ariana felt it again, that hum, low and sick, like the air was singing. Liam grabbed her arm, his voice tight. She's here, he said, and there it was, at the dock's edge, the shadow, sharper now, a woman's shape, her head tilted like she was listening. Ariana's name came again, a whisper that cut through her bones, and the shadow moved, gliding toward them, faster than it should. Liam yanked her back, and they ran, the village's lights a distant blur, the hum chasing them like a pulse. At the inn, Ariana slammed the door, her chest heaving. Liam didn't follow, his shape gone in the fog. Ellie was there, her face pale, a broom in her hands like a weapon. Saw you running, she said, voice shaky. What happened? Ariana's eyes burned into her. You tell me, Ellie, she said. Donnie's boat's trashed, more blood, and that thing out there knows my name. Your sister's story got anything to do with this? Ellie's broom clattered, her eyes wide. You don't know what you're asking, she said, but Ariana was done with dodges. She pulled out the photo, shoving it at Ellie. This Lisa? Or Moira? Start talking. Ellie stared at the photo, her hands trembling, and for a second, Ariana thought she'd break. But Ellie shoved it back, her voice hard. Get out of my inn, she said. You're cursed, bringing her back. Ariana didn't move, the words hitting like a slap. Upstairs, she locked her door, the scarf and photo heavy in her hands. The fog pressed against the window, and she checked it, no new carvings, but something worse. Tucked into the frame, barely visible, was a lock of hair, dark and damp, tied with a blue thread. Her breath stopped, because it wasn't hers. And it wasn't Sarah's either. Episode 7, The Past Bleeds Through. Ariana Grande's fingers trembled as she held the lock of hair, dark and damp, tied with blue thread, plucked from her window frame. It wasn't hers, too coarse, too long, and it wasn't Sarah's, unless Sarah dyed her hair black in secret. The in-room felt like a trap now, the walls leaning in, the fog outside a gray fist squeezing Glenmorrow tight. Her clues, Sarah's earring, the threatening note, the photo with Moira scratched on it, the ribbons, the scarf, were piled on the desk, but this hair was different. It felt personal, like a gift from the shadow that whispered her name in the moors. Her stomach churned, Ellie's words echoing, "You're cursed," bringing her back. Ariana wasn't cursed. She was pissed, and she was done being played. She shoved the hair into her pocket with the rest, her heart thudding loud enough to drown the wind rattling the panes. Ellie's freakout downstairs, Liam's sketch of that hooded woman, Donnie's trashed boat, Glenmorrow was unraveling, and every thread led back to Moira, or Lisa, or whatever truth Ellie was burying. Jake was her best shot now, because Liam's half-answers and Ellie's panic weren't cutting it. Ariana grabbed her jacket, the fabric still damp from last night's run, and slipped out, locking the door like it'd keep the fog's secrets at bay. The village was a ghost town, the fog thinner but clingy, smudging cottages into shadows. The pub's sign creaked, but it was dark, no sign of Jake. She headed for his office instead, a squat building by the square, its windows grimy like it hadn't been cleaned since Moira's day. The door was unlocked, and inside smelled of stale coffee and old paper. Detective Jacob Jake McLean was at a desk, surrounded by files, his face haggard under the fluorescent buzz. He looked up, eyes narrowing. "Thought I said stay put, Ariana," he said, voice gravelly, like he hadn't slept in days. She didn't sit, just pulled out the hair, holding it up. "Found this in my window, Jake," she said. "Not mine, not Sarah's." "And Donnie's boat?" "Blood, scarves, your ritual symbols everywhere. You gonna keep pretending this is just missing hikers?" Jake's jaw tightened, but he took the hair, turning it in the light. His fingers paused, like he recognized something, but his face stayed stone. "Could be anything," he said, tossing it on the desk. "Village is spooked. People do weird shit when they're scared." Ariana leaned in, voice low and sharp. "I'm scared, Jake, but I'm not stupid," she said. "That shadow called my name again. Ellie's losing it, Liam's got sketches matching your stones, and now this hair? Tell me about Lisa. Ellie's sister. What happened?" Jake's eyes flicked to the files, then back to her, and for the first time, he looked cracked, like the weight was too much. "Sit," he said, voice softer now. "You want truth? Fine. But it ain't pretty." She sat, the chair creaking, her pulse racing. Jake rubbed his face, like he was digging up bones. "Lisa Thompson," he said. "Ellie's older sister. Vanished 20 years ago, same as others before her. I was new then, cocky, thought I'd crack it. Found nothing, no body, no trace. Just stories. Moira, the betrayed woman, taking souls. Locals ate it up, but I didn't buy ghosts. Still don't." He paused, his fingers tapping a file. "Ellie never forgave me. Thinks I gave up. Maybe I did. Ariana's throat tightened, the photo in her pocket burning. The girl who looked like her, Lisa. She pulled it out, sliding it across. This her? She asked. Jake's breath caught, his hand hovering over the photo before picking it up. Where'd you get this? He said, voice rough. Ariana didn't flinch. Found it, she said. With a note saying I'm next. Says Moira on the back. Jake flipped it, his face darkening, but he didn't speak, just stared like the word was a wound. A knock broke the silence, sharp and urgent. Clara Murray stood in the doorway, her white hair wild, her eyes bright with something like fear or madness. Old Clara, the village storyteller, who spun tales for kids by the fire. Heard you talking, she said, voice quavery but firm. About Lisa. About Moira. You're stirring her, girl. Ariana's skin prickled. Clara, she said, what do you know? Clara shuffled closer, her hands twisting a shawl. Moira wasn't just a woman, she said. She was us. Village turned on her, long ago. Blood for blood, they said. Ritual went wrong. Now she's hungry. Jake stood, his chair scraping. Enough, Clara, he said, but his voice shook. Go home. Clara's eyes locked on Ariana. You look like her, she said, soft and eerie. Like Lisa did. Be careful, child. She left, the door clicking shut, leaving silence thick as fog. Ariana's head spun. Ritual? Blood? She turned to Jake, but he was already moving, grabbing his coat. Got a call, he said. Stay here. Like hell, she thought, following him into the night. The fog was back, heavy and cold, swallowing the square. Jake's truck roared to life, and Ariana climbed in, ignoring his glare. Where? She asked. He didn't look at her. Edge of the moors, he said. Donnie's missing now. Found his hat, blood on it. Her stomach dropped, the memory of Donnie's noose rope flashing. The moors were dark, the truck's beams barely cutting through. They stopped at a path, narrow and overgrown, where a hat lay crumpled, stained red. Jake's flashlight swept the ground, finding tracks, human, but dragging, like something was pulled. Ariana's eyes caught a flicker, deeper in the fog, a light, faint, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jake, she whispered, pointing. He saw it too, his hand on his gun. Stay here, he said, moving toward it, but Ariana's feet followed, drawn like a moth. The fog parted, revealing a trail, barely there, lined with stones etched with symbols, same as the ritual site. The light grew, coming from a shed, hidden in the heather, its door ajar, the glow spilling out. Jake eased the door open, and Ariana peered past him, her breath catching. Inside was a mess, candles melted to stumps, symbols scratched on the walls, a table with ropes and a knife, its blade dark with something that wasn't rust. The air hummed, low and sick, like the voice in the moors. Ariana's name came again, a whisper from nowhere, and she spun, seeing nothing but fog. Jake's face was pale, his gun steady but his eyes wide. This is bad, he muttered, backing out, but Ariana's gaze locked on the floor, a photo, half-burned, of the same girl. Lisa. Or her. They ran, the shed's light fading behind them, the fog closing like a jaw. Back at the truck, Ariana's hands shook, Clara's words looping, blood for blood. Ritual gone wrong. Jake didn't speak, just drove, his knuckles white. At the inn, he stopped her at the door. No more moors, Ariana, he said, voice raw. Not alone. She nodded, but her mind was elsewhere, on the shed, the knife, the whisper. Upstairs, she locked her room, the clues heavier than ever. The photo of Lisa stared back, and Ariana froze. On the desk, beside it, was something new, a candle, unlit, its wax carved with a single word, Moira. Episode 8, Into the Unknown. Ariana Grande's fingers hovered over the candle on her desk, its wax etched with Moira in sharp, angry lines. The words stared back, daring her to touch it, but her gut screamed to leave it alone. The in-room was too quiet, the fog outside pressing against the window like it was trying to get in. Her clues, Sarah's earring, the threatening note, the photo of Lisa, the ribbons, the scarf, the lock of hair, felt like weights now, pulling her deeper into Glenmore's mess. That shed in the moors, with its knife and symbols, wasn't some prank. It was a warning, same as the whisper of her name, same as Clara's talk of rituals and blood. Ariana wasn't just chasing answers anymore. She was being chased. She backed away from the candle, her sneakers scuffing the floorboards, and grabbed her jacket. Staying here, with that thing on her desk, wasn't happening. Jake was out there, probably still poking at Donnie's bloody hat, but he'd told her to stay put. Screw that. The shed's glow, the half-burned photo of Lisa, it was all connected, and sitting still felt like letting Moira, or whatever she was, win. Ariana slipped the clues into her pocket, her hands steadier than her heart, and crept downstairs. The lobby was empty, Ellie nowhere, just the faint smell of burnt coffee lingering like regret. Outside, the fog was a cold slap, wrapping Glenmore's cottages in a haze that made every shadow twitch. The village square was dead, no lights, no voices, just the creak of the pub's signs swinging in the wind. Ariana's boots crunched gravel as she headed for Jake's office, hoping he was back, but a flicker caught her eye, a light, faint, moving behind the inn. Her pulse spiked, the memory of those footprints circling her window too fresh. She hesitated, then followed, because ignoring it hadn't worked so far. The light led to an alley, narrow and choked with mist. She moved slow, her breath shallow, until she saw it, a lantern, swinging from a shed door, not the Moreland one but closer, hidden behind stacked crates. The door was cracked, the glow spilling out, and a low hum hit her ears, like the voice in the fog but softer, hungrier. Ariana's skin crawled, but her feet kept moving, drawn like a moth to a bad idea. She eased the door open, the hinges silent, and stepped inside. The shed was small, cluttered with junk, rusted tools, ropes, a cracked mirror, but the air felt wrong, thick, like it was holding secrets. On a table sat the lantern, and beside it, a map, old and creased, marked with red XS. One matched the ritual site, another the shed from last night. Symbols circled each X, same as the stones, and a name was scrawled in the corner, Lisa. Ariana's throat tightened, her fingers brushing the map, when a creak snapped her head up. The door was still open, but the fog outside moved, like something was brushing through it. She grabbed the map, folding it fast, and backed out, her heart hammering. The hum followed, faint but close, and she ran, the lantern's light fading behind her. The village loomed through the fog, and she aimed for the pub, its windows glowing weak but steady. Inside, the air was sour with beer and tension. Detective Jake McLean was at a corner table, his coat off, a glass of something stronger than coffee in his hand. He looked up, eyes bloodshot. "Told you to stay put, Ariana," he said, voice low, like he was too tired to fight. She dropped the map on the table, her voice sharp. "Found this, Jake," she said. "Shed behind the inn. Lisa's name, your ritual marks, same as the Moors. Donnie's gone, and I'm done with your half-assed answers." Jake's glass paused, his eyes locking on the map. He unfolded it, his jaw tightening, but before he could speak, the door swung open, and Liam Connors strolled in, his grin too easy for the mood. "Trouble brewing, pop star?" he said, sliding into a chair. "Saw you sprinting. What's the rush?" Ariana didn't trust that grin, not after his sketch and his dodge about Lisa. "Found a map, Liam," she said, watching his eyes. "Got Lisa's name on it. You know anything about sheds full of creepy shit?" Liam's grin flickered, but he leaned back, casual. "Village is full of relics," he said. "Old grudges, old marks. Lisa's just one ghost in a crowd." Jake slammed his glass down, cutting in. "Enough, Connors," he said. "Ariana, this map's old. Could be nothing." But his voice shook, like he didn't believe it. She wasn't buying it either. The hum, the map, the shed, it was all screaming something, and Jake's denial was getting old. I'm going back out there, she said, standing. With or without you. Jake grabbed her arm, his grip firm but not rough. Not tonight, he said. Donnie's hat wasn't just blood. Found a finger. Her stomach lurched, the room tilting. A finger? She whispered. Jake nodded, his face grim. Stay here. I'll check the shed. He left, the door banging shut, and Liam watched her, his eyes too sharp. You're deep in it now, he said, voice low. Moira don't like company. Ariana ignored him, her mind on the map's excess, the hum, the shadow that knew her name. She slipped out after Jake, keeping her distance, the fog hiding her steps. The shed was dark now, the lantern gone, but Jake's flashlight bobbed inside. She crept closer, peering through a crack. He was kneeling, digging at the floor, pulling up boards. Something glinted, a locket, like Ellie's, but older, crusted with dirt. Ariana's breath caught, and she stepped back, her boots snapping a twig. Jake's head whipped around, his light blinding her. Damn it, Ariana, he hissed, climbing out. I said stay put. She didn't back down. What's that locket, Jake? She said. Another secret? He stuffed it in his pocket, his face hard. Old case, he said. Go back. Now. But the hum was back, louder, and the fog swirled, heavy and wrong. Ariana's name came again, a whisper that curled around her like smoke, and there, at the alley's edge, the shadow stood, its shape clear, woman, tattered, hands reaching slow. Jake saw it too, his gun out, but his hand shook. Move, he said, voice cracking, and they ran, the shadow's hum chasing them through the fog. The village lights burned faint, and they stumbled into the square, gasping. Jake's face was pale, his locket hand clenched. That wasn't wind, he muttered, like he was admitting defeat. Ariana's chest heaved, Clara's words looping, ritual went wrong. She grabbed Jake's sleeve. No more lies, she said. Tomorrow, we find that other X on the map. Together. He nodded, reluctant, and she headed for the inn, her legs like jelly. Inside, Ellie was sweeping, her eyes flicking to Ariana's mud-streaked jeans. Trouble again? She said, voice tight. Ariana didn't answer, climbing to her room, locking the door. The candle was still there, Moira glowing in the lamplight. She spread the map, her clues beside it, and froze. The photo of Lisa was gone, replaced by a new one, same girl, but older, standing by the stones, her eyes empty. And scratched into the frame, fresh and deep, was a single word, soon. Episode 9, The Heart of the Fog. Ariana Grande's breath fogged in her room, the new photo on her desk staring back like a punch she didn't see coming. The girl, Lisa, or whoever she was, stood by the ritual stones, older than in the first photo, her eyes hollow, like she'd seen hell and brought it back. The word soon scratched into the frame wasn't just a threat. It was a clock ticking, and Ariana's name was on it. The candle with Moira carved in wax hadn't moved, but it felt alive now, watching her as much as she watched it. Her clues, Sarah's earring, the note, the ribbons, the scarf, the lock of hair, the stolen map, were a puzzle missing pieces, and Glenmorrow's fog seemed hell-bent on keeping them hidden. She hadn't slept, not after the shadow chased her and Jake through the village, its hum drilling into her skull. That locket he'd found, the map's red XS, Clara's talk of blood rituals, it was all closing in, and Ariana was done running. The second X on the map pointed to a cave, deep in the moors, and Jake had agreed to go, no more dodging. But trust was thin, especially with Liam's slick grins and Ellie's guilt-trip glares. Someone was playing games, and Ariana wasn't here to lose. Morning came gray and raw, the fog a stubborn veil over Glenmorrow. Ariana shoved the photo and map into her pocket, her jacket still damp from last night's chaos, and headed downstairs. Ellie Thompson was in the lobby, wiping tables, her hands too steady for someone who'd called Ariana cursed. Morning, Ellie said, voice flat, like she was reading a script. Ariana didn't smile. Save it, she said, pausing at the door. Found another photo. Looks like Lisa, but older. You still sticking to your story? Ellie's rag stopped, her knuckles white, but her face stayed blank. Don't know what you mean, she said, too quick. Ariana's eyes narrowed, but she let it go, stepping into the fog. Ellie was a lock she'd pick later. The village square was quiet, cottages like ghosts in the mist. Detective Jake McLean waited by his truck, his coat streaked with mud, the locket's weight clear in his pocket. You sure about this? He said, voice rough, like he'd argued with himself all night. Ariana climbed in, the map crinkling in her hand. That cave's marked for a reason, Jake, she said. Sarah, Donnie, Lisa, it's all there. You saw her last night. No more bullshit. He didn't argue, just started the engine, the truck rattling toward the moors. The moors were endless, heather crunching under tires, the fog a gray sea swallowing sound. Ariana's skin prickled, the shadow's hum still fresh, her name a whisper that wouldn't quit. Jake stopped near a ridge, the cave's mouth a black gash in the earth, framed by stones etched with symbols. Same as the shed, the ritual site, the map. This is it, he said, grabbing a flashlight, his gun holstered but ready. Stay close. She nodded, her boots sinking into mud as they approached, the air cold and sharp, like it was warning them off. The cave was tight, damp walls glistening, the air thick with rot and something sweeter, like old flowers. Jake's beam swept slow, catching bones, small, scattered, maybe animal, maybe not. Ariana's stomach twisted, but she kept moving, her own flashlight shaking. Deeper in, the cave widened, revealing a shrine, stones stacked in a circle, candles burned to stubs, ropes knotted weirdly, and a mirror, cracked but standing, reflecting their faces back warped and wrong. In the center, a slab, stained dark, with symbols carved deep, stars, lines, a name, Moira. Ariana's breath caught, the photos soon flashing in her mind. Jake cursed under his breath, his light on the slab. Old blood, he said, voice low. Seen this before, years back. Never found who did it. Ariana stepped closer, her beam catching something tucked in the stones, a bracelet, silver, with a charm shaped like a star. Sarah's? She whispered, reaching for it, but Jake grabbed her wrist. Don't, he said, eyes wide. It's bait. Too late. The hum came, sudden and loud, filling the cave like a scream trapped in glass. Ariana's name echoed, bouncing off walls, and the mirror flickered, showing not her face but the shadows, woman, tattered, eyes black as voids. Ariana stumbled back, Jake's gun out, but the hum grew, shaking dirt from the ceiling. Run! He yelled, pulling her toward the entrance, but the fog rolled in, thick and wrong, blocking the way. The shadow stepped from the mirror, real now, its hands reaching, and Ariana's legs froze, her name a chant in her ears. Jake fired, the shot deafening, but the shadow didn't flinch, just glided closer, its hum a knife in her skull. Ariana's flashlight dropped, and she ran blind, Jake's hand on her arm, the cave's walls scraping her skin. They burst out, gasping, the fog swallowing the hum but not the dread. The cave's mouth was dark now, like it had never been anything but stone. Ariana's chest heaved, the bracelet still in her hand, she'd grabbed it, didn't even remember how. Jake's face was pale, his gun shaking. That wasn't, he started, then stopped, like words failed him. Back at the village, the truck's engine was the only sound, Jake's silence heavier than the fog. Ariana clutched the bracelet, its star charm glinting. Sarah's, she said, voice raw. Has to be. Jake didn't look at her, just drove, his locket hand clenched. At the inn, he stopped, his voice barely audible. We're done, Ariana, he said. No more caves, no more maps. Get out of Glenmorrow. She stared, his betrayal stinging worse than the fog's cold. You're giving up? She said. Like you did with Lisa? He flinched, but didn't answer, pulling away. Inside, Ellie was at the counter, her eyes flicking to Ariana's muddy boots. Out again? She said, voice tight. Ariana ignored her, climbing to her room, the bracelet heavy in her pocket. She locked the door, spreading her clues, the new photo of Lisa glaring back. The cage shrine, the shadow's face, it was real, and Jake was running scared. She turned to the candle, Moira still carved in wax, and froze. The wick was lit now, flame small but steady, and beside it, scratched into the desk's wood, was a fresh mark, a star, like Sarah's charm, like the cave's slab, pointing her deeper still. She grabbed the map, the second X burned out, but a third glowed faintly, a spot she hadn't seen before, hidden in the Moor's heart. Her name came again, a whisper from the fog outside, and Ariana's blood ran cold. Jake was gone, Ellie was lying, and the shadow wasn't waiting anymore. She sank onto the bed, the flames flicker casting shadows that moved too much like hands, and realized the cave wasn't the end. It was just the door. Episode 10, Fractured Bonds. Ariana Grande's room felt like a coffin, the candles flame-licking shadows across the walls, the star scratched into the desk glaring like an accusation. The map beside it showed a new red X, faint but undeniable, pulsing in the Moor's heart where no path should be. Sarah's star bracelet weighed heavy in her pocket, alongside the earring, the threatening note, the scarf, the lock of hair, and the photo of Lisa, older, hollow-eyed, tied to Moira's name. The cage shrine, that shadow stepping from the mirror, its hum carving her name into her bones, it wasn't just real. It was personal. Jake's betrayal stung worst, his words at the inn's door looping, "Get out of Glenmorrow." He'd seen the shadow, felt the cave's dread, and still bailed, leaving her alone with a village that wanted her gone. Ariana snuffed the candle, the smoke curling like a warning, and stood, her sneakers silent on the floorboards. Staying put wasn't an option, not with that ex calling, not with Sarah's bracelet burning a hole in her pocket. Jake was out, Ellie was a liar, and Liam's stories were too slippery to trust. But the fog outside was alive, whispering her name, and Ariana wasn't here to hide. She grabbed her jacket, the map crinkling as she tucked it away, and slipped downstairs, the inn's lobby dark except for a single lamp flickering like it was on its last breath. Ellie was gone, the counter empty, but a broom leaned against it, like she'd left in a hurry. The fog hit her like a damp fist, Glenmorrow's cottages smudged into gray. The village was too quiet, the kind of quiet that made your skin itch, like eyes were everywhere. Ariana's boots crunched gravel as she headed for the square, hoping to find someone, anyone, who'd talk. The pub's sign creaked, but its windows were black. Instead, a shadow moved near the bakery, quick and low. Her pulse spiked, the memory of the cave's mirror too fresh, but she crept closer, her breath shallow. It wasn't the shadow. It was Mara Taylor, crouched by her shop's door, muttering, her hands clutching something small, a locket, glinting in the fog's weak light. Ariana stepped forward, her voice soft. "Mara, what's that?" Mara's head snapped up, eyes wild, her apron streaked with flour and red. "You," she hissed, scrambling back. "Always you, poking, breaking everything." Ariana held up her hands, calm but firm. "I'm trying to find Sarah, Mara," she said. "That locket, is it hers?" Mara's fingers closed around it, her voice cracking. "Not hers," she said. "My brother's. Lost him, like Sarah, like Lisa. Because of outsiders like you." She stood, locket clutched to her chest, and ran inside, the door slamming. Ariana's gut twisted, Mara's brother, another vanishing, another thread to Moira. She turned, the fog thicker now, and headed for Ellie's inn, because Mara's words lit a fire. Ellie knew more than she was saying, and Ariana was done with games. The inn's door was unlocked, the lobby cold, but Ellie was there, stacking firewood, her face pale as bone. Ariana didn't wait. "Mara's got a locket, Ellie," she said, voice hard. "Says it's her brother's, lost like Lisa. You gonna keep pretending you're not part of this?" Ellie's wood clattered, her eyes wide, but she shook her head, voice low. "You're wrong, Ariana," she said. "I love Lisa. I didn't cause this." Ariana stepped closer, the photo in her pocket burning. "Didn't cause what?" she said. "Moira? The cave? Sarah?" Ellie's lips trembled, and for a second, Ariana thought she'd spill. But Ellie grabbed her broom, pointing at the door. "Get out," she said, voice breaking. "You're tearing us apart." Ariana didn't move, her eyes locked on Ellie's, until a shout cut through. "Liam Connors, outside, calling her name." She stepped into the fog, Liam's shape sharp against the mist, his grin gone. "Heard you're chasing caves," he said, voice tense. "Bad move, pop star. Found something you need to see." Ariana's skin prickled, but she followed, because Liam's eyes weren't playing now. He led her to his cottage, the air inside thick with ink and old books. On his table was a journal, leather cracked, pages yellowed. "Found it in the church," he said, flipping it open. "Look." The page showed a sketch, stones, symbols, a woman bound, and words, "Blood for peace." "Moira's debt." Ariana's throat tightened. "Debt?" she said. "What's that mean?" Liam's eyes darkened. "Village made a deal, long ago," he said. "Sacrifice, to keep her quiet. Went wrong. Now she's collecting." Ariana's head spun, Clara's ritual talk echoing. "Collecting who?" she said. "Sarah? Donnie? Me?" Liam didn't answer, just closed the journal, his hand shaking. "You're too close," he said. "Like Lisa was." Before she could push, a scream tore through the fog, high, raw, from the square. They ran, the village a blur, and found Clara Murray, crumpled by the well, her shawl torn, her face bloodied. "She's back," Clara gasped, grabbing Ariana's arm. "Moira. Saw her, took my ring." Ariana's eyes caught it, a glint in the mud, a ring with a star, like Sarah's bracelet. Liam helped Clara up, but Ariana's focus was the ring, her hand trembling as she grabbed it. Another star, another mark. She turned to Liam, voice sharp. "Where's Jake?" she said. "He's gotta see this." Liam shook his head. "Haven't seen him," he said, but his eyes slid away, too quick. Ariana's gut screamed, Liam knew something, same as Ellie, same as Mara. She left Clara with him, heading for Jake's office, the fog a cold weight on her chest. The office was dark, door ajar, papers scattered like someone left in a rush. Ariana's flashlight swept the desk, landing on Jake's badge, smeared with blood, half hidden under a file. Her breath stopped, the cave's hum flashing back, her name in the shadow's voice. "Jake?" she called, voice cracking, but the room was empty, the air wrong, like it held a secret it wouldn't share. She grabbed the badge, its weight sickening, and ran, the fog swallowing her steps, aiming for the moors, for that third X, because Jake wasn't here, and the shadow wasn't waiting. The moors were a gray void, heather snapping underfoot, the map's X her only guide. The fog parted, revealing a circle of stones, smaller than the ritual site but marked with stars, ropes draped like offerings. Ariana's name came again, a whisper from the mist, and she spun, the ring and badge clenched tight. The shadow stood at the circle's edge, clearer now, woman, broken, her hands stained dark. Ariana's legs shook, but she didn't run, her voice raw. "What do you want?" she said. The shadow tilted its head, and the hum grew, words forming slow, "Truth." Ariana stumbled back, the stones pulsing underfoot, and the fog closed in, the shadow gone but its word heavy, "Truth." She ran, the village's lights faint, her chest burning. At the inn, she locked her room, the badge and ring joining her clues, the photo of Lisa staring back. The candle's wax had melted, Moira blurred but alive, and on the map, a new mark glowed, not an X but a star, right where she'd stood. Ariana sank to the floor, Jake's bloodied badge in her hand, and realized the truth wasn't just out there. It was in her, and it was coming for her next. Episode 11, The Cost of Truth. Ariana Grande sat on the floor of her own room, Jake McLean's bloodied badge cold in her palm, its weight heavier than the fog-choking Glenmorow. The star mark on the map glowed under the lamplight, etched where she'd faced the shadow in the moors, its word, "Truth," still ringing in her ears like a bell she couldn't unring. Her clues: Sarah's earring, the threatening note, the scarf, the lock of hair, the ribbons, the ring, the bracelet, the photo of Lisa, sprawled across the desk, each a piece of a puzzle that felt like it was solving her instead. The candle's wax had pooled, Moira barely legible now, but its flame was long gone, like it knew she didn't need it to feel the heat anymore. Jake was missing, maybe dead, and that badge wasn't just a clue, it was a warning. Ellie's lies, Liam's journal about blood debts, Clara's attack, Mara's locket, Glenmora was a knot of secrets, and Ariana was tangled in it, her name whispered by something that wasn't human. The Shadow's voice, its stained hands, had shaken her, but running wasn't an option. Sarah was still out there, Donnie too, and the truth, whatever it cost, was all Ariana had left to chase. She stood, legs unsteady, and tucked the badge with her clues, the map crinkling as she folded it. Dawn was breaking, gray and thin, the fog a stubborn ghost clinging to the village. Downstairs, the lobby was empty, Ellie's counter bare, but a faint creak came from the kitchen, like someone was trying not to be heard. Ariana's pulse spiked, her hand on the doorframe as she peered in. Ellie Thompson froze, a knife in one hand, a cloth in the other, her eyes wide like she'd been caught. Cleaning, Ellie said, too fast, her voice shaky. You're up early, Ariana. Ariana didn't buy it, not with Jake's badge burning a hole in her pocket. Where were you last night, Ellie? She said, voice low but sharp. Clara got jumped, Jake's gone, and I'm finding stars everywhere. You know something. Ellie's knife clattered to the counter, her face paling. I told you, she said, I don't, it's not me. Lisa's gone, and I'm just trying to live. Ariana stepped closer, the photo of Lisa in her hand. This her? She said, holding it up. Because she's tied to Moira, and so are you. Ellie's eyes locked on the photo, her breath hitching, and she grabbed it, fingers trembling. Where'd you get this? She whispered, like it was a bomb. Ariana didn't blink. Answer me, Ellie, she said. What happened to Lisa? To Mara's brother? To Sarah? Ellie's lips parted, but a knock cut her off, loud and urgent. Ariana spun, heart racing, and opened the door to Liam Connors, his face grim, no grin in sight. Village meeting, he said, voice clipped. Square, now. Something's happened. Ariana glanced at Ellie, who looked ready to bolt, and followed Liam, the photo back in her pocket, Ellie's silence louder than words. The square was packed, villagers huddled under the fog, their faces tight with fear. Mara Taylor stood on a bench, her apron clean but her eyes wild, shouting over the crowd. Another one gone. She said, voice cracking. My niece, Katie, didn't come home. You all know why. She pointed at Ariana, her finger shaking. Her, stirring it up, calling her back. Ariana's chest tightened, the crowd's eyes pinning her like needles. I'm trying to help, Mara, she said, voice steady despite the heat in her face. Found Katie's ribbon, Sarah's bracelet. I want them back too. Mara laughed, bitter and raw. Help? She said. Like you helped Jake? Found his badge, didn't you? The crowd gasped, whispers spreading like fire, and Ariana's hand closed around the badge, her throat dry. Liam stepped in, his voice calm but firm. Enough, Mara, he said. Blaming her don't bring Katie back. Let's search, proper. But Mara's eyes burned, and she stormed off, the crowd splitting, some nodding at Liam, others glaring at Ariana. Liam pulled her aside, the fog curling around them. You're in it now, he said, voice low. Katie's gone, same as Sarah. Found her shoe by the stones. Ariana's stomach dropped, the star-marked circle flashing back. Show me, she said, because standing here wasn't finding anyone. They headed for the moors, the village fading behind, the fog a cold weight on her skin. Liam moved fast, his flashlight cutting through, until they reached the stones, their symbols glowing faintly, like they'd been waiting. A shoe lay in the mud, small, pink, scuffed, Katie's, no question. Ariana crouched, her fingers brushing it, when the hum came, soft at first, then sharp, her name woven into it, Ariana. She stood, heart pounding, and saw it, the shadow, at the circle's edge, its shape clear now, woman, tattered, hands outstretched, eyes black but alive. Liam froze, his light shaking. "She's here," he whispered, but Ariana didn't run, her voice raw. "What do you want?" she said, the ring and bracelet heavy in her pocket. The shadow's head tilted, and words formed, slow and heavy, "See." The fog swirled, and the shadow vanished, leaving a path, barely there, lined with pebbles marked by stars. Ariana's legs moved before her brain caught up, Liam grabbing her arm. "You're mad," he said, but she shook him off, following the path, the hum guiding her like a leash. It led to a dip, where the fog parted, revealing a tree, gnarled and old, its roots clutching something, a box, wood cracked, symbols burned into it. Ariana knelt, her hands shaking as she pried it open. Inside was a journal, pages brittle, and a locket, twin to Ellie's, but older, heavier. Liam's breath hitched, but before Ariana could read, a shout echoed, Mara, running from the fog, her face twisted. "You found it!" she screamed, grabbing for the box. "It's hers, it's Moira's." Ariana pulled back, the journal slipping, pages tearing. "Mara, stop," she said, but Mara's hands were claws, her voice wild. "You don't know what you've done," she said. "She'll take us all now." Liam stepped in, pulling Mara away, her screams fading as he dragged her toward the village. Ariana clutched the journal and locket, her chest heaving, the hum gone but the air still thick. The path was empty now, the shadows sea looping in her mind. She stumbled back to the inn, locking her room, the box's weight sickening. Ellie was downstairs, her eyes on the mud streaking Ariana's jeans, but Ariana didn't stop, spreading the journal on her desk. Its pages were a mess, names, dates, symbols, and one word circled, sacrifice. Lisa's name was there, Mara's brother too, and others, stretching back decades. The locket clicked open, revealing a photo, not Lisa, but a woman, older, with Ellie's eyes, standing by the stones. Ariana's breath stopped, the journal's last page staring back, Moira's debt, unpaid. She turned to the window, the fog pressing close, and saw it, a handprint, fresh, smeared in mud, right where the star had been. The hum came again, faint but clear, and Ariana's name wasn't alone this time. Another word followed, sharp as a blade, Katie. Episode 12, Tangled Lies. Ariana Grande's hands shook as she stared at the handprint smeared on her window, the fog outside twisting it into something alive. The word Katie, whispered with her own name in that sick hum, clawed at her nerves, tying her to Glenmorrow's latest loss. The journal from the Moors lay open on her desk, its pages screaming sacrifice, Lisa, Mara's brother, names stretching back decades, all linked to Moira's unpaid debt. The locket beside it, with that woman's face so like Ellie's, felt like a bomb waiting to go off. Her clues, Sarah's earring, the threatening note, the scarf, the lock of hair, the ribbons, the ring, the bracelet, Jake's bloodied badge, were a web now, and Ariana was caught, the shadow's voice pulling tighter with every step. Katie's disappearance, Mara's meltdown, Jake's absence, it was all crashing together, and Ariana couldn't shake the shadow's last word, see. See what? The truth? The debt? Her own name in that journal next? She stuffed the locket and journal into her pocket, her jacket damp from the moors, and checked the map. The star mark still glowed, but the fog's hum felt closer, like it was under her skin. Staying in this room, with that handprint watching, wasn't an option. She needed Liam, or Ellie, or anyone who'd stop dodging, because Katie's shoe in the mud meant time was bleeding out. Downstairs, the inn's lobby was a tomb, the air heavy with dust and silence. Ellie Thompson wasn't there, but a light flickered in the kitchen, faint like a secret. Ariana crept closer, her boots soft on the creaky floor, and peered through the crack. Ellie was bent over a table, a candle lit, her hands clutching a photo, Lisa, young, smiling, before the stone stole her. Ellie's lips moved, no sound, like a prayer or a plea. Ariana's throat tightened, but she pushed the door open, voice low. "Ellie, we need to talk. Now." Ellie jumped, the photo slipping, her eyes wide with guilt. "Ariana," she said, voice cracking, "you shouldn't. What do you want?" Ariana didn't blink, pulling out the locket. "Found this," she said. "Looks like your mom, maybe." "Journal 2, says sacrifice. Lisa's name, Mara's brother, and Moira's debt. Katie's gone now. You gonna keep lying?" Ellie's face crumpled, her hands shaking as she grabbed the locket, holding it like it burned. "It's her," she whispered. "My mother, Miriam. She tried to stop it, back then. Paid for it." Ariana's pulse spiked. "Stop what?" she said, stepping closer. "Moira? The rituals?" Ellie's eyes darted to the door, like she expected it to burst open. "Village made a deal," she said, voice barely there. "Long ago, to keep Moira quiet. Blood for peace. Miriam said it was wrong, tried to break it. They took Lisa instead." Ellie's voice broke, tears spilling, and Ariana's chest ached, but pity wasn't answers. "And Sarah? Katie?" she said. "Same deal?" Ellie shook her head, frantic. "I don't know, I swear. I just keep the inn, keep quiet." Before Ariana could push, a bang came from the square, shouts, footsteps, chaos. She ran outside, Ellie trailing, the fog thick but alive with voices. The village was awake, lanterns bobbing, faces pale. Liam Connors was in the center, holding up a coat, Katie's, torn, streaked with mud and something darker. "Found it by the docks," he said, voice steady but eyes sharp, scanning the crowd. "She's close. We search, now." Ariana's gut twisted, the journals weighed heavy. She grabbed Liam's arm, pulling him aside. "Another star, Liam," she said, voice low. "Journal says sacrifice. You knew, didn't you?" Liam's grin was gone, his face hard. "New stories," he said. "Not this. But you're right, stars mark M. Always have." He glanced at her pocket, like he saw the journal through her jacket. "Show me," he said, but a scream cut through, Mara Taylor, collapsing, clutching a ribbon, blue, like Sarah's. "She's gone," Mara sobbed, pointing at Ariana. "You did this, brought her back." The crowd turned, eyes burning, and Ariana stepped back, the badge in her pocket a cold reminder of Jake's fate. Liam steered her away, toward his cottage, the crowd's shouts fading in the fog. Inside, Ariana spread the journal, its pages stark under his lamp. Lisa, Miriam, others, all tied to stars, to Moira. Liam's fingers traced the names, his voice low. "Village kept it quiet," he said. "Thought it was done, after Lisa. Guess not." Ariana's eyes locked on his. "Guess not?" she said, voice sharp. "Katie's shoe, Sarah's bracelet, someone's doing this, Liam. You covering for them?" His jaw tightened, but he didn't answer, just flipped to a page with a map, same as hers, but older, a star where the docks stood. "The docks," she said, standing, the hum in her head sparking. "That's where we go." Liam grabbed her arm, his grip tight. "Not alone," he said. "Fog's bad tonight." But Ariana was already moving, the journal tucked away, her boots hitting gravel as she ran, Liam cursing behind her. The docks were a ghost land, boats rocking in the mist, the air sour with salt and rot. Katie's coat was there, tangled in nets, but something else caught Ariana's eye, a glint, under a plank. She knelt, pulling out a knife, its blade crusted with blood, a star etched on the handle. The hum came, sudden and loud, her name a blade in the fog, Ariana. She spun, the shadow closer now, its shape sharp, woman's hands stained black, reaching slow. Liam froze, his flashlight shaking, but Ariana's voice cut through, raw and fierce. "Stop it," she said. "I see you, Moira, or whoever you are. What's Katie to you?" The shadow paused, its head tilting, and words formed, heavy as stone, "Mine." The fog swirled, and it was gone, leaving a trail, pebbles, marked with stars, leading into the moors. Ariana ran, Liam shouting, the trail pulling her deeper, the hum a pulse in her blood. The moors opened to a clearing, stones circling a pit, ropes dangling like nooses. In the center, a figure, Jake, alive, tied, his face bruised but breathing. Ariana's heart leapt, her hands tearing at the ropes. "Jake," she said, voice cracking, "you're okay." He groaned, eyes hazy. "Trap," he muttered. "They took me, for her." Ariana froze, the journal's sacrifice flashing, but footsteps crunched behind, Liam, panting, his face pale. "Found you," he said, but his eyes flicked to Jake, too quick, too wrong. Ariana stood, the knife in her hand, her voice cold. "You led me here, Liam," she said. "Knew the stars, the docks. What's this trap?" Liam's hands raised, slow, his voice calm. "Not me, Ariana," he said. "I swear." But the hum was back, and the shadow loomed, its voice clear now, not just her name but Jake's, Katie's, Liam's, a list that ended with now. Ariana's grip tightened, the pit's edge too close, and she saw it, a shoe, pink, Katie's, half buried in the mud, star-marked and alone. Episode 13, The Breaking Point. Ariana Grande's breath burned in her chest, the pink shoe in the moor's mud, Katie's, star-marked and lonely, glaring like a wound. The shadow's voice still echoed, her name tangled with Jake's, Katie's, Liam's, and that final now, sharp as a blade. Detective Jake McLean slumped beside her, ropes loose but his face bruised, his mutter of trap heavy in the fog. Liam Connors stood too close, his eyes flicking from Jake to the pit circled by stones, his calm feeling wrong, like a mask slipping. Ariana's hand tightened on the knife from the docks, its star-etched handle cold, the journal's word, sacrifice, pulsing in her head. Glenroe's secrets were cracking open, and she was standing on the fault line. The fog curled thick, the stone symbols glowing faintly, like they'd woken up. Ariana helped Jake stand, his weight heavy, his eyes clearing but haunted. "What trap, Jake?" she said, voice low, her gaze cutting to Liam. "He said they took you." "Who's they?" Jake coughed, his voice rough. "Don't know," he said. "Hit me, tied me. Left me here, for her." Ariana's skin prickled, the shadow's mind looping back. Liam stepped forward, hands up, too smooth. "Easy, Ariana," he said. "Found you, didn't I? Not the enemy here." But his eyes lingered on the shoe, and Ariana's gut screamed he knew more than he was spilling. "No time for games," she said, knife steady, pointing at Liam. "You led me to the docks, knew the stars. Katie's shoe's here, and Jake's alive, but you're not surprised. Talk." Liam's jaw tightened, his calm cracking. "I'm helping," he said, voice sharp. "Village is scared, Ariana. Moira's story, someone's using it." "Not me." Jake groaned, grabbing her arm, his voice urgent. "He's right," he said. "Saw someone, not him. Hooted, fast. Left the shoe." Ariana's head spun, the journal's names, Lisa, Miriam, flashing, but Katie's shoe kept her grounded, a kid caught in this mess. The hum came again, low and sick, her name a thread in it, Ariana. The shadow didn't show, but the fog shifted, heavy, like it was breathing. "We move," she said, helping Jake, the knife still out, Liam trailing like a shadow she couldn't shake. The village lights were faint, the moors endless, every step sinking into mud. Jake limped, his badge back in her pocket, its blood crust reminding her how close he'd come. The stones faded behind, but Katie's shoe burned in her mind, a clue she couldn't carry but couldn't leave. Back at the inn, the lobby was lit, Ellie Thompson behind the counter, her face pale but her hands steady, like she'd been waiting. "You're alive," she said to Jake, voice flat, her eyes flicking to Ariana's mud-streaked jeans. "Found Katie?" Ariana's jaw clenched, the locket in her pocket heavy. "Just her shoe, Ellie," she said, voice hard. "Star-marked, like Sarah's bracelet. Like your mom's deal with Moira." Ellie's hands froze, her lips parting, but Liam cut in, voice low. "Careful, Ariana," he said. "Village is on edge." Don't light the match. Too late. The door banged open, Mara Taylor storming in, her eyes red, her apron streaked with flour and rage. Katie's gone, she screamed, pointing at Ariana. You found her shoe, stirred her up. Moira's got her, and it's your fault. Ariana stepped forward, heart pounding, the crowd behind Mara growing, their faces tight with fear. I'm trying to stop this, Mara, she said, voice steady. Found a journal, says sacrifice. Your brother's name was in it. You want to blame me, or find Katie? Mara's face twisted, tears spilling, and she lunged, but Jake grabbed her, his voice gruff. Enough, Mara, he said. We're searching. Go home. Mara collapsed, sobbing, and the crowd dispersed, their whispers like knives in the fog. Ariana turned to Ellie, the journal burning a hole in her pocket. Your mom tried to stop it, you said, she told Ellie, voice low. But someone didn't. Who? Ellie's eyes darted to Liam, then away, her voice barely there. I don't know, she said. I was a kid. Leave it, Ariana. For Katie's sake. Ariana's blood heated, but Jake's hand on her shoulder stopped her. Upstairs, he said, voice raw. We talk there. Her room was cold, the candles wax a dead pool, the star mark on the desk sharper in the light. Ariana spread the journal, Jake sitting heavy, Liam leaning by the door like he owned it. Names, she said, pointing at the pages. Lisa, Miriam, Mara's brother. Says Moira's debt needs blood. Katie Fitz. Jake's face darkened, his fingers tracing the locket he'd found. Old case, he said. Thought it was over. Someone started it again. Ariana's eyes locked on Liam. You knew the docs, the stars, she said. You're deep in this, historian. Liam's grin was gone, his voice cold. I study it, Ariana, he said. Don't make it. Before she could push, a crash came from below, glass, wood, chaos. They ran downstairs, the lobby a mess, tables flipped, Ellie crouched by the counter, blood on her cheek. Ambush, she gasped, pointing outside. They came for me. Ariana's heart raced, the fog swirling through the broken door, and she saw it, tracks, fresh, leading to the moors, marked with a star scratched in the dirt. Jake's gun was out, his face grim. Stay here, he said, but Ariana was already moving, the journal's weight pulling her, Katie's name in her head. The moors were a gray maze, the tracks fading fast, the hum rising like a tide. Ariana's name came, sharp and close, and the shadow appeared, its shape clear, woman, broken, hands black with blood. Jake froze, Liam cursed, but Ariana stepped forward, knife shaking. Where's Katie? She said, voice raw. The shadow's eyes burned, and it pointed, slow, to the pit from before, now deeper, ropes pulsing like veins. Ariana ran, her boots slipping, and saw it, a ribbon, blue, caught in the mud, Katie's name scratched beside it, fresh and wet. The hum surged, the shadow closer, its voice a scream, now. Ariana stumbled, Jake grabbing her, Liam shouting, but the pit seemed to breathe, the fog a wall, and something moved inside it, small, alive, crying. Katie? Ariana's heart leapt, but the shadow's hand was on her, cold as death, and the journal fell, its pages catching flame, burning names to ash, except one, Moira, glowing like a star, calling her deeper still. Episode 14, Unraveled Threads. Ariana Grande's boots skidded in the moor's mud, the pit's edge crumbling under her weight as the shadow's cold grip lingered on her skin. The journal burned at her feet, its pages curling to ash, but Moira glowed through the flames, a name that wasn't just a story anymore. Katie's ribbon, blue and frayed, clung to the pit's rim, her name scratched in the dirt like a plea. That cry, small, alive, human, still echoed from the dark below, spiking Ariana's pulse. Detective Jake McLean yanked her back, his face pale, gun shaking, while Liam Connors shouted from behind, his voice lost in the fog's hum. The shadow was gone, but its scream, now, hung heavy, tying Ariana to Katie, to Sarah, to every name in that journal's ashes. Jake's breath was ragged, his eyes on the pit. "That's her," he said, voice cracking. "Katie. We get her out." Ariana nodded, her knife from the dock still in hand, its star handle glinting like it knew the way. Liam grabbed a rope from the stones, his face tight, no grin left. "Careful," he said, tossing it down. "Something's off." Ariana's gut agreed, the hum too quiet now, the fog too still, like it was holding its breath. She tied the rope around her waist, Jake anchoring, and lowered herself, the pit's walls slimy, the air sour with rot and blood. The cry came again, weaker, and Ariana's flashlight caught a shape, Katie, curled tight, her face streaked with mud, eyes wide but alive. "I've got you," Ariana said, voice steady despite her heart slamming. She reached out, Katie's hand small and cold, but the pit shuddered, dirt raining down. Jake's shout echoed, "Pull up, now," and Ariana hauled Katie close, the rope biting her skin as they climbed, the hum surging back, her name a whip crack, "Ariana." The shadow flickered above, its hands reaching, but Jake's pull was stronger, yanking them free. They collapsed on the grass, Katie shivering, Jake cutting the rope, his face grim. "She okay?" he said, checking her pulse. Ariana nodded, wrapping her jacket around Katie, but her eyes were on Liam, who stood too far, watching the pit like it might speak. "What's off, Liam?" she said, voice sharp. "You knew this spot, same as the docks." He shook his head, hands up. "Just stories, Ariana," he said, but his voice caught, like he'd swallowed a lie. Katie coughed, her voice tiny. "She took me," she said, eyes darting. "The lady in the fog. Said I was hers." Ariana's blood ran cold, the journal sacrifice flashing, the locket in her pocket, Miriam, Ellie's mom, burning. "Back to the village," Jake said, lifting Katie, but Ariana grabbed the ribbon, its blue-soaked red now, and followed, the burned journal's ashes stuck to her boots. The fog parted, Glenrose lights faint, but the hum trailed them, softer, like it wasn't done. At the inn, Mara Taylor waited, her scream piercing as she saw Katie. "My girl," she sobbed, pulling her close, but her eyes hit Ariana like knives. "You brought her back," she said, voice shaking, "but you woke her too." Ariana's jaw tightened, the crowd gathering, their faces mixed, relief, fear, blame. Ellie Thompson was there, her hands twisting, blood still on her cheek from the ambush. Ariana stepped to her, voice low. "Your mom's locket, Ellie," she said, holding it up. "Journal said she fought Moira's deal." "Who finished it?" Ellie's face crumpled, her voice a whisper. "I don't know," she said. "I was too young. But it's not over." Jake cleared the crowd, his badge back on, blood gone but weight still there. Inside, Ariana spread her clues, Katie's ribbon joining the pile, the photo of Lisa staring back, older, empty, by the stones. Liam lingered, his eyes on the locket. "That's Miriam's," he said, voice low. "She was trouble, stirred the village up." Got silenced. Ariana's skin prickled. "Silenced how?" she said, but Liam backed off, his hands up. "Just stories," he said, slipping out, leaving her with Jake, whose silence was louder than the fog. Jake sat, his face hard. "Found a name," he said, pulling a scrap from his pocket, journal page, unburned, tucked away. "Clara Murray," he said. "Old case, tied to Miriam." She knew too much. Ariana's breath caught, Clara's warning looping, blood for blood. "Clara?" she said, voice tight. "The storyteller?" Jake nodded, his eyes dark. "She's no sweet gran," he said. "Led the rituals, back then. Maybe still does." Ariana's head spun, the pieces shifting, Clara, not Ellie, not Liam, but the one who spun Moira's tale like a lullaby. They headed for Clara's cottage, the village asleep, the fog a cold shroud. Her door was ajar, the air inside thick with herbs and wax. Clara sat by a fire, her shawl tight, her eyes sharp as stars. "Knew you'd come," she said, voice steady. "Found Katie, did you?" Ariana didn't sit, the knife in her pocket ready. "Found more," Clara, she said. Journal, your name, Miriam's fight. You led the sacrifices, didn't you? Clara's smile was thin, her hands folding. Led nothing, child, she said. Guided. Village needed peace, Moira demanded it. Miriam broke the rules, paid the price. So did Lisa. Ariana's blood boiled, Katie's cry echoing. And Sarah? Katie? She said, voice raw. You took them for your ghost? Clara's eyes narrowed. Not me, she said. Someone new, wearing her name. Ask your historian. He's got her scent. Jake's gun was out, his voice low. Where's Sarah, Clara? He said. No games. Clara stood, slow, her shawl falling, revealing a star pendant, like Sarah's bracelet. Gone, she said, voice cold. Like you'll be, if you keep digging. The hum surged, sudden, Ariana's name a scream, Ariana, and the fire flared, shadows dancing, Clara's face twisting into something else, Moira's, broken, stained. Ariana stumbled, Jake grabbing her, and they ran, Clara's laugh chasing them into the fog. Outside, the village was chaos, lanterns, shouts, Mara's voice rising, Sarah's back. Ariana's heart leapt, but her boots froze. Sarah stood in the square, mud-soaked, eyes blank, a star scratched into her palm, bleeding slow. She's here, Sarah whispered, pointing at Ariana, and the hum returned, the shadow's shape flickering behind her, its hands on Sarah's shoulders, its voice clear, choose. Ariana's knife shook, Clara's pendant burning in her mind, and she saw it, a trail, star-marked, leading from Sarah to the moors, where Clara's laugh still lingered, calling her to finish it. Episode 15, The Reckoning. Ariana Grande's heart slammed against her ribs, Sarah's blank eyes and bleeding star-marked palms searing into her like a brand. The shadow loomed behind the girl, its tattered form sharper now, hands resting on Sarah's shoulders, its voice, choose, cutting through the fog like a blade. Glenrose Square was a frozen tableau, villagers' lanterns casting jagged light, Mara Taylor sobbing, Jake McLean's gun steady but useless. The star trail from Sarah's feet snaked into the moors, where Clara Murray's laugh still echoed, her pendant and ritual confession tying her to Moira's debt. Ariana's clues, Sarah's earring, the note, the scarf, the hair, the ribbons, the ring, the bracelet, Jake's badge, the locket, felt like chains now, dragging her to this moment, where choosing meant blood. Sarah swayed, her voice a whisper. She's waiting, she said, eyes locked on Ariana, the star on her palm dripping red. Ariana's knife shook, the star-etched handle from the docks biting her palm, Clara's words looping, someone new, wearing her name. Jake stepped forward, his voice low. Sarah, come here, he said, but the shadow's hands tightened, and Sarah flinched, her whisper turning sharp. No, she said. It's her. Ariana. Mara screamed, lunging, but villagers held her back, their faces torn, fear, rage, guilt. Ariana's throat closed, the hum rising, her name a pulse, Ariana. She faced the shadow, its black eyes alive with something older than the Moors. What's the choice? She said, voice raw, the knife steady now. Me for Sarah? Katie? The village? The shadow's head tilted, and words came, slow, heavy, end it. The trail glowed, star marks burning through the fog, leading to the pit where Katie was found, where the journal burned. Ariana's gut screamed, Clara, the rituals, Miriam's fight, it all ended there, or it never would. Jake grabbed her arm, his face grim. Don't, Ariana, he said. It's a trap, like me. She shook him off, Sarah's bleeding hand her anchor. Trap or not, she said, I'm done running. Stay with her. She ran, the trail pulling her, the fog a cold fist, the hum a chant now, Ariana, Sarah, Moira. Villager shouts faded, Mara's sobs a distant ache, and the moors opened, the pit's stones pulsing, ropes dangling like veins, star symbols alive with light. Clara stood at the pit's edge, her shawl gone, star pendant glinting, her smile cold as the fog. Knew you'd find me, child, she said, voice smooth, no trace of the storyteller's quiver. Moira chose well. Ariana's knife raised, her voice hard. Chose me for what, Clara? She said. Your sacrifices. Sarah's back, Katie's safe. It's over. Clara laughed, sharp, her pendant catching the light. Over? She said. Moira's dead as blood, always was. Miriam fought it, Lisa paid, you're just next. Ariana's blood boiled, the locket, Miriam's, heavy in her pocket. Miriam stopped you, she said, stepping closer. Broke your ritual. You took Lisa to keep it going, didn't you? Clara's eyes narrowed, her hand clutching the pendant. Miriam was weak, she said. Thought love could save her girl. Village needed balance, so I gave it. Stars mark the chosen. Yours shines bright. Ariana's skin crawled, Sarah's palm flashing, but footsteps crunched, Liam Connors, panting, his face pale. Stop, Clara, he said, voice breaking. It's enough. Ariana spun, the knife between them. You, Liam? She said, heart racing. Knew the stars, the journal, led me to traps. Working with her? Liam's hands raised, his eyes on Clara, not her. No, he said. Found her notes, years back. Tried to warn you, not trap. Clara's laugh cut through, cold as stone. Warn? She said. You're hers too, boy. Always were. The hum surged, the pit glowing, and Ariana's name came, loud, final, now. The shadow rose, not from Clara but the pit, its hands black, reaching for them all. Ariana lunged, not at Clara but the pendant, ripping it free, its chain snapping. The shadow screamed, the hum a wail, and Clara staggered, clawing for it. No! She shouted, but Ariana threw it into the pit, the star sinking into dark. The fog tore open, the shadows form cracking, woman, then girl, then nothing, its voice gone. Clara fell, her face blank, the pit silent now, the stars on the stones dull, dead. Liam grabbed Ariana, pulling her back, his breath shaky. You did it, he said, but his eyes were wet, like he'd lost something too. Clara didn't move, her pendant gone, her power with it. Jake arrived, Sarah with him, her palms still bleeding but her eyes clear. It's done, Sarah said, voice small, and Mara ran up, sobbing, holding her tight. Ariana's legs buckled, the knife dropping, the locket falling, Miriam's face staring up, free at last. The village gathered, faces soft now, guilt replacing fear. Ellie Thompson pushed through, her hands trembling, seeing Clara's body. My mom, she said, voice breaking, she tried, thank you, Ariana. Ariana nodded, too raw to speak, the clues in her pocket light for the first time. Jake's hand rested on her shoulder, his badge clean, his voice low. You didn't run, he said. Saved us. She managed a smile, but the pit's dark stayed in her, the shadows ended not fully quiet. They burned Clara's things that night, the moors watching, the fog thinner, like it could breathe again. Ariana packed her bag, Sarah and Katie safe, Mara's sobs turned to thanks. Liam lingered, his grin back but softer. You're a story now, pop star, he said, handing her a sketch, Miriam, smiling, stars around her. Keep it, he said. For truth. Ariana took it, her throat tight, and left for the inn, the village's lights warm behind her. Upstairs, her room was empty, the candle gone, the desk clear. She checked the window, no handprints, no stars, just fog, rolling slow. But as she turned, a hum came, faint, not her name but a note, like a song she'd forgotten. Her breath caught, the sketch in her hand warm, Miriam's eyes alive. The Morse called, soft, and Ariana froze, the truth clear, Clara was gone, Moira's debt paid, but something lingered, waiting for her to choose again. Episode 16, Echoes Remain. Ariana Grande stood in her own room, the faint hum from the moors lingering like a melody she couldn't shake. The sketch of Miriam Thompson, Ellie's mother, felt warm in her hand, its stars framing a smile that carried both peace and pain. The desk was bare now, no candle, no star marks, no clues cluttering its wood. Her bag was packed: Sarah's earring, the threatening note, the scarf, the lock of hair, the ribbons, the ring, the bracelet, Jake's badge, and the locket tucked inside, lighter than before but heavy with truth. Clara Murray was gone, her pendant destroyed in the pit, Moira's debt paid with no more blood. Sarah and Katie were safe, Glenmorrow breathing again, yet that hum, soft as a whisper, kept Ariana's pulse uneven, hinting the Moors weren't done. The fog outside was thin, the village's lights soft through her window, no handprints or shadows staring back. Clara's confession, her role as the ritual's keeper, had cracked Glenmorrow open: Lisa's death, Miriam's fight, the sacrifices stretching back generations, all tied to a betrayed woman named Moira, whose pain fueled the stars. Ariana had ended it, or so she thought, but the hum felt like a loose thread, tugging her to look closer, to listen. She zipped her bag, the sketch folded carefully, and headed downstairs, ready to leave but not ready to forget. The lobby glowed warm, Ellie Thompson behind the counter, her hands steady for the first time, her auburn hair catching the light. She looked up, eyes softer now, no guilt shadowing them. "Leaving, Ariana?" she said, voice gentle, like she'd found ground to stand on. Ariana nodded, her throat tight. "Yeah, Ellie," she said. "Time to go. But I'm glad, about your mom." Miriam was a fighter. Ellie's lips trembled, a smile breaking through. "She was," she said. "You gave her peace. Thank you, for everything." Ariana managed a nod, the locket in her bag a quiet thank you back. Outside, Glenmorrow woke slow, cottages bathed in dawn's gray, the fog rolling back like it was tired. Mara Taylor stood by her bakery, Katie at her side, both waving, Mara's eyes wet but grateful. No blame now, just relief, and Ariana waved back, her chest loosening. The square was alive, villagers moving with purpose, no lanterns, no fear. Detective Jake McLean leaned against his truck, badge gleaming, his face less heavy, like he'd shed a ghost of his own. "Got a ride to catch?" he said, voice gruff but warm. Ariana smirked, her boots crunching gravel. "Back to the world, Jake," she said. "You keep this place safe now." He nodded, his hand out, and she shook it, his grip firm, no words needed. "You didn't break," he said finally, eyes steady. "Not many would have stayed." She shrugged, the hum faint in her ears, but didn't tell him it wasn't about staying. It was about seeing, like the shadow said. Jake tipped his hat, climbing into his truck, leaving her with the village's hum and her own thoughts. Liam Connors waited at the edge, his grin soft, no historian's slyness left. He held a notebook, its pages blank, like he was starting fresh. "Story's yours now, pop star," he said, voice low, handing her a small carving, a star, wood smooth, no blood, no debt. "Keep it," he said. "For the Moors." Ariana took it, her fingers tracing its edges, Miriam's sketch warm in her pocket. "You told me the truth, Liam," she said, eyes locked on his. "Thanks for not running." His grin widened, but his eyes were wet. "Had to match you," he said, stepping back, the fog swallowing him slow. Her rental car waited, keys cold in her hand, the road out of Glenmorrow clear for the first time. She slid in, the engine's purr drowning the hum, but not fully. The moors stretched beside her, heather swaying, no stones, no shadows, just green and gray under a sky that might hold sun. Her bag sat heavy, the clues inside not clues anymore but memories, Sarah's laugh when Mara hugged her, Katie's small hand in hers, Ellie's smile, Jake's nod, Liam's star. Miriam's fight, Lisa's loss, Clara's end, they weren't hers to carry, but she did, like lyrics she'd write someday. The village faded in her rearview, the fog a thin veil, no longer a fist. Ariana's fingers tapped the wheel, a melody forming, one she'd hum on stages far from here. But the hum came back, soft, not her name, not Moira's, just a note, like wind over stones. She slowed, glancing at the moors, and saw it, a flicker, not a shadow but a shape, woman, faint, standing where the pit had been. Not reaching, not whispering, just there, watching, her hands clean, her eyes calm. Ariana's breath caught, the star carving warm in her pocket, Miriam's sketch heavier now. Was it Moira, free at last, or something else, something the Moors held back? She didn't stop, didn't wave, just drove, the shape fading, the hum softening to silence. Glenmorrow was behind her, its debt paid, its stars dim, but the Moors kept their secrets, and Ariana kept hers, a song unwritten, a truth she'd seen, a choice she'd made. The road curved, her phone buzzing as signal returned, the world rushing back, texts, calls, noise she'd craved 3 weeks ago. She ignored it, the star carving her anchor, the hum a ghost she'd carry. Glenmorrow wasn't home, but it wasn't gone, its echo in her bones, like a stage she'd left but never forgotten. She turned up the radio, her own voice filling the car, but the Moors note lingered, faint, calling her to listen, one last time. Thank you for listening to this incredible story. Our team would really appreciate it if you give us a like and comment. Your opinion is very important to us. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed. See you soon.